If you are interested in BFS fishing, then you're gonna like today's video. You see this big rod tube right here? Inside of this rod tube is the new Dobyns Sierra Ultra Finesse BFS rod. These things have been getting super hyped up over the last couple months, but I tell you what, they're finally available and I was able to pick one up. I probably have like one of the first couple hundred to tell you the truth. I'm super stoked to see what it's all about, but I waited a couple days to open it because I wanted to open it and get my first impressions for you. Now I'm gonna open this puppy here in a second, but here's the thing, I plan to take this rod right here out and get some first impressions on it as well, so stay tuned to the end of this video where I'm gonna kind of break it down and try to cast it at a local creek. Unfortunately, because it's winter, I can't guarantee I'm gonna catch any fish on the thing in this video. That being said, I'm planning to do a part 2 to this video in a couple months when the weather gets a little bit better and I'm able to really put it to use on fish. Let's cut into this puppy. Ooh. Aha, there it is, the moment of truth. Now the fun part. You know what, I just realized something. Before I proceed with this unboxing, I do want to explain what BFS is because a lot of times people still don't know what it is. It stands for Bait Finesse System or Bait Finesse Style, and basically all it is a finesse bait caster. If you want to be able to cast super light stuff that traditionally you would cast on a spinning reel, but you want to be able to do so on a casting reel, BFS is for you. After I pop into this here bubble wrap, I always like popping bubble wrap. Anyways, after I pop into this bubble wrap, I am going to explain a little bit about why I got this specific rod. It's good that they wrap it so well, but by golly, this is a lot of work. Boom, shakalaka. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wow. The first thing that I absolutely notice is how many freaking guides are on this thing. Let me count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 guides on one 7-foot rod. What? I'm definitely not like a scientist and I don't understand why this many guides make sense, but I'm just gonna trust Dobyns on this one. That is strange, it's crazy. Okay, so let me read you the specs on this rod real quick. This is a 7-foot, one piece. It's recommended 2 to 8 pound line size. It's rated for 1/16 to 5/16 ounces, which correlates to 1.5 to 8 grams. This is a light power and it is a fast action. They call it ultra finesse casting. This is made for people that really like the BFS style of fishing. Now my first impressions are this rod feels extremely light. Okay, so this is like a 6'6" medium heavy quantum rod. Like it feels like I'm holding a dumbbell when I compare it to this. I know that you can't compare apples to oranges, but the point is a traditional 6'6" standard bass rod feels very heavy when you compare it to this right here. That is one of the biggest things that I look for in my equipment. I like lightweight, and this is gonna check the box. So we just went over the specs, but let me tell you why exactly I wanted this specific rod. In order to do so, let me talk about my existing BFS rods. So I currently own 2 BFS setups right now. This one is a 4'10" ultralight, so obviously I'm going to keep this. It has a very different usage than the Dobyns that I just picked up. I currently have a Fishband GH100 rigged up on this particular rod, but I'm actually going to be getting rid of this. Nothing against the reel, I have no problems with it, and I wasn't planning on getting rid of it, but I am trying to set my buddy Dave up with a BFS setup because he wants to get into it as well. So I'm going to take that off right now. I love this rod actually. Like I know that today's video is not about this rod, but I really, really like this rod. It's a Major Craft Troutino. Super sweet. Now the other one, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I also own a Shimano Sensilite. It's a 7-foot light power rod. That's right, it is the exact same specs as the Dobyns. So you might be wondering, Ethan, why the heck did you pick up the Dobyns? Honestly, I just really wanted to pick up the Dobyns. I felt like there was a lot of hype around it. I wanted to bring a review to the internet, talk about my impressions, and I figured it would be a little bit more sensitive than this particular rod, and I think I'm going to use it a lot, so I felt like I could justify it. I don't know, I'm constantly feeling like I need to justify buying more fishing gear, but the reality is I just am addicted to fishing and I buy a lot of fishing gear, probably that I don't need. Most of you can probably relate to that, I would imagine, because that's how fishermen are. Now the reel I have on this particular rod is actually the reel that I'm going to put on my Dobyns. That is a Shimano Aldebaran 12 BFS XG. This has already been such a fantastic reel. I love this reel, but it's gonna match up with this Dobyns perfectly. 4-pound Berkeley Nanofill with a 4-pound fluorocarbon leader. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and keep that for now. Like I said, I actually really, really like the Shimano Sensilite. It is really a great rod, and I think it only retails for about 60 bucks. They're kind of hard to find, but it's a good rod. rod. When I whip these two side by side, they feel like they've got a very similar action and taper. The only major difference that I can feel here is that the Sensilite is definitely a little bit heavier. Using lighter gear, man, it makes a difference when you're out there on the water a lot. It's got a good balance. I like the way this feels in my hand. I'm very pleased with how this feels right this instant. What do I plan on using this particular setup for? The 4'10" ultralight that I mentioned, this is really for panfish and trout in small waters, places that I've got a lot of brush and I'm really trying to sneak stuff through cover. That's what this rod is for. What I fully intend to use this for is really smallmouth bass in the river. I've got a spot that I love to fish during the summer. It is a shallow river that I can wet wade, and there's just tons of 8 to 14 inch smallmouth bass. And to tell you the truth, that spot alone was one of the biggest determining factors in why I got this particular rod. That being said, obviously I would not buy a rod for one specific river. This is gonna be really fun for fishing out of my kayak for panfish and small bass. It's gonna be a very versatile rod, I feel. A crappie's gonna be fun on this, a big bluegill's gonna be fun on this, but at the same time, it's gonna be able to handle some of those smaller bass, and it's gonna be a blast to catch them. Okay, that is totally enough rambling about this rod. Let's take it to the water and see how it performs. Okay, it's bright and early the next day, and I'm actually at a trout stream that I've never fished in my life. You know, today's goal really is just to get a feel for this thing, how well it casts and whatnot. This is gonna be the first cast with it. This is a 1/32 ounce mule jig and a small swim bait. All in all, this combo is probably in the 1/16 or a little bit heavier range. It's nothing too heavy, so this will be a good test because this is the kind of stuff I'm gonna fish with this combo a lot. What'd you just do? Also, Dave is testing his new setup, and I just heard a loud snap, and he broke off his swim bait in a tree. He's off to a heck of a start. You know, obviously so much of your castability comes from the reel, and obviously this Aldebaran is great for casting this type of stuff. As far as the balance and everything of the rod goes, it's really not all that different than that Sensilite I was using, so it doesn't really feel too crazy. I just like the weight of it and the overall feel of it. It's just very balanced, and I'm really impressed. So I got a nice little background here, good old snow. It's actually helpful. You can see it's definitely a fast tip, but it's pretty darn soft. I mean, it's gonna give me a lot of control and ability to kind of fling these little jigs out there. It's pretty incredible just how thin this rod tip is. It's crazy. Do you need me to climb the tree, Dave? Oh no, I'm in a tree too. I mean, that was a stupid cast. I put way too much loft on it. No! Well, we're off to a heck of a start. We're testing out our new combos and we both broke off. Honestly, it's probably a blessing in disguise that I broke off because this gives me an opportunity to kind of test something a little on the lighter side of things. I'm still gonna stick with the 1/32 ounce jig because I really don't think I need to go any lighter than that. I'm gonna use a much less dense plastic. This is just a tiny little crappie plastic, so this is gonna pair well on a mule jig, but it's just really gonna be able to test how well I can cast something this small. I don't intend to use a lot of stuff this small on this rod, but it is nice to get a feel for the capabilities. Rigged and ready to go. Honestly, this thing looks beautiful. Oh, that went to the left. Oh, there we go. There we go. I dialed it in a little bit there. This is definitely on the light side of things for this particular combo. If I had a smaller rod that has a little bit more flex to it, I'd probably be able to shoot it out there a little bit better. You know, a 7-foot light is on the high end of things from a BFS standpoint. Honestly, from the feel of this is gonna be like a perfect Ned Rig rod, which is exactly what I want it for. Oh yeah, man, I can cast that just fine. I'll be able to use this light stuff. It's gonna take a little getting used to, but this light stuff's definitely within, I can do it. I can't keep it quite as low to the water, but that's to be expected. This is probably not gonna be a good winter fishing rod because these guides are so small and there's so many of them, and it's cold out, and so they're actually freezing up. So anybody that lives in the north don't probably want to use this for winter fishing. I didn't even think about that until now. Honestly, I wasn't really planning on using this in the winter anyway, so I'm not that worried about it, but it's something to consider. I really like the tip on this rod. I feel like I've got a lot of control over my bait. Well, that's just great. I'm really dialing this thing in. I'm a big fan. Everything's feeling really good. I'm definitely thinking this is gonna be a great combo for smallies in the river, exactly what I bought it for. These guides are all freezing up. 16 tiny guides trying to keep the ice out of them, pretty much impossible. Okay, I tell you what, it is cold out here and I'm not really feeling super optimistic about this creek, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it. That being said, this rod is looking like it's gonna do exactly what I want it to do. Stay tuned for part 2. Once we don't have the snow on the ground, it's a little bit warmer, I'm gonna put this thing to use on some bass and we'll get a better feel for how it loads up and how it performs on the water. Also, I did want to point out the fact that this is the 7-foot model, but there's also a 7.4, and my buddy Jimmy actually picked it up, and I think he's doing a review on his channel, so you can check that out. That's probably enough rambling for now. If you have any specific questions around my first impressions on this rod, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Anyways, we'll catch you next time. just so satisfying.